All righty, here we go. 8:11 on the line right now is Judy Weeks. Judy is running the St. Patrick's Day Parade this year, as she does each and every year, and of course, along with the Great American Irish Festival. Judy, good morning. Thanks for coming on.
Oh, good morning. Thanks for having me.
You have a big weekend coming up, and I got to tell you something.
Okay.
The number, I want you to write this number down. It's very important.
Okay.
61. 61 is...
Our
the
temperature.
The temperature, yeah.
It's going to be amazing. Amazing.
Yeah. And whenever that happens, whenever the weather is nice, the people just seem to come out for this parade in droves. And I'm assuming you're preparing for that this weekend.
We're well prepared for it. We're very excited. It not only helps the general public to come and see a great parade, but it helps all the floats. You know, they're waiting in line out there to come down, and some of them aren't really undercover, and, you know, it just makes it more enjoyable for them, and they can be very excited whether they're marching or walking or on a float, and with that nice weather and the sunshine makes us all smile.
I don't know. Something happened during urban renewal in the 60s. There's not a piece of wood in this studio except for, I think this is wood. I'm knocking on wood for you because you never know.
I'm knocking on my head.
Yeah, you gotta. All right. So this year, I mean, what are you telling people? Obviously, if the weather's nice, the crowds will be large, and get in there early and get your spot in the parade room.
Right, get in there early. All our parade entries have been notified. You know what time different sections should be there, just to get a chance to get in their spot, so that the other units in the back can get down Genesee Street.
Yeah.
For the general public, all the side streets, we're doing Genesee again this year, straight up and all the way down. All the side streets will be closed to Genesee. So anyone that's looking to park, you know, they're not going to be able to get on Genesee Street from about 8:15 on.
Okay. Now, what is interesting, I'm told there is a dance competition at the Stanley Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Correct.
What are those people? What should those people do? They're going to have to come in from the backside, right?
Well, this is actually, I think, their second or third year doing it. So they're all very well aware. They'll come in on the backside and park in the parking area behind the Stanley Theater, and that's all been worked out with them, and they all know. And then they know when they leave, they're usually there until well after the parade ends.
Yeah,
so when they leave isn't an issue.
All right, and those that are in the parade, obviously, one of the things you always talk about every year is the throwing of candy.
Yes.
Kids like to jump out, and then they're jumping under the vehicles. You got to be very careful.
We did put in our application that, you know, we would prefer you not to have candy, but if you do for this year, please, no throwing from the units. You know, if you have walkers, they need to go over to the side and hand it to them. You know, these little guys, they don't know, even though they're holding on to mom's shirt tails.
Yeah.
They see candy, and, you know, we don't want to have any problems. I mean, we've got a lot of staff that are going to be out there manning the streets, and we're going to be very strict about it because we don't want anyone injured at all.
All right, Judy. Well, we're going to be crossing our fingers for you for the weather. I'm sure you'll have the luck of the Irish, and, of course, I want you to hold on the line if you could.
Sure.
Jeff has to speak with you for just a second. But parade is this weekend, and Syracuse, did they run their parade this past weekend?
Nope, they have it the same. It'll
Same
be
day.
Saturday, so
Okay.
a lot of our pipe bands, they step off at noon. So we get a lot of our pipe bands down early so they can hop a bus and get to Syracuse.
You guys work together, so
Yes.
that's really
Yep,
cool.
we
All
do.
right, great deal. Judy, thanks. We appreciate it.
You're welcome, Bill.
All righty. Okay, the other thing I want to squeeze in here, he's not a thing, the guy, Kevin Green, who is the youth director with Oneida County. Kevin, good morning. Thanks for coming in.
Good morning, Bill. How are you?
You're with the county, and your job is to, as the youth director, what do you do?
Well, as the United County Youth Bureau Director, what I do is try to take as much responsibility and put as much effort as we can into looking into the troubled youth in our area, trying to basically give them an opportunity to succeed in life.
Pretty small investment when you really think about if you can make a difference in their lives. It's a pretty small investment. Pretty valuable investment.
Well, I would say, yeah, the value is there.
Yeah.
Upcoming events that I'm going to be a part of is I'm going to the Community Reader Day. I'm going to be doing that at Kernan School, and the county executive Anthony Pacenti will also be there. It's going to be very exciting. We're going to be reading to some elementary school kids,
Cool.
a fourth grade class. So those types of things are important. I'm an educator. I come from the education background, so education to me is very important. And that's stressed through the United County Youth Bureau is the value of education and trying to give the kids the best chance to succeed in life.
Speaking of education, you have an interesting story. You played baseball.
Yes.
So you can kind of and you're a coach, by the way. You coach for New Hartford right now.
Correct.
How do you look this year?
Well, we're at second day of tryouts. Was yesterday. Today we'll be evaluating pitchers. So
how do you beat this? It's going to be 70 degrees. There's no snow on the ground.
I mean, and people complain about living here. I mean, come on, let's go.
But how many years? I mean, last year it was so cold, and
yes.
the games were canceled, and practices you couldn't get out. This year,
come on, it toughens them up.
You could have been it puts them in the gym, right?
Yes.
That's the
parents
problem.
Up.
That certainly does.
Well,
but this year you're looking like you've got it made here.
Well, we spend a lot of time as coaches. We spend a lot of time at trying to give the kids the mental aspect of when you're inside the gymnasium. You have to play it live. So even though we are, it's the Northeast.
Yeah, that's what it is.
It's a reality that we will be in the gymnasium, and when we go in there, we need to play it live, and that's the mindset.
So spring break, where you guys tend to go to like Orlando or Myrtle Beach. Where are you going this year?
Well, actually, the spring break is very late,
end of April.
So we will be going nowhere.
Oh.
We will be staying home.
And the weather is perfect for it anyway. There's no reason to go.
Yeah, I mean, at that time of the year, it'll be perfect. So we're looking forward to the year. The Tri-Valley League, which is the league we play in, it's very, very jam-packed, highly competitive.
How do you deal with those kids that are like, listen, my parents are going away on spring break. I'm supposed to go, but I am your starting pitcher. I am your starting shortstop. Or how do you handle that?
Well, we've built a culture.
Do they know not to even ask?
Yeah. Well, we've built a culture and a program that's growing and developing that the kids are. I really think they're so excited to be a part of it that they don't even ask. They want to be with their teammates.
Yeah. Well, you got to be there. I hate to say it. That happens, spring break or not. But you have an interesting story. You were the last local guy to play for the Utica Blue Sox.
That is correct, and that's one little trinket that I like to have. It's of value to me. I remember as a kid going to the Utica Blue Sox games and chasing foul balls and looking up to the guys that were out there on the field and wanting to be one of them, and to have the opportunity to play professionally and play in our own hometown here for our then hometown Utica Blue Sox. Mm-hmm. It's a pretty big deal to me.
You were in the Marlins organization, right?
Correct.
Now, it's an interesting story because you really just went to the Blue Sox and said, hey, you were a walk-on, right?
Basically, I was a walk-on. If I can get a little bit in depth, if you don't mind, I'll give you a little background.
Yeah, because to me, it's a great story because it was all about your mind. You felt you could do it, and you accomplished it.
Correct, and a lot of us need to be at times pushed and motivated, and, poked and prodded to do things that you think are beneath you or below you. Mm-hmm. So at one point in my life, I was drafted. I went to Mohawk Valley Community College for 2 years. I was fortunate enough to earn 2 All-American awards and obviously keep my grades up well enough to have the opportunity to transfer on to another 4-year school.
Yeah.
But after my sophomore year, playing for Coach Joe Malazzo at that time, I had, I got drafted in 1995. But throughout my junior college career and throughout my young life, really going back to the Little League years and whatnot, that was what I wanted.
Yeah.
I mean, I had a vision. That was something that I try to express to youth and to kids. When you go to bed at night, whatever you want to be when you grow up, you have to dream about that. And if you can't see yourself doing it at a young age, then that dream's never going to come to fruition.
So how did the timeline work? So you went to college first, or
correct? I graduated from Notre Dame High School. I
Yep.
played for Coach Tom Giaruzzi, who was the Stop DWI coordinator for Oneida County. And then I had the great opportunity to play American Legion baseball for a legend in our area, a living legend in our area, and that's Mike Michonne.
Mike's a good guy.
He's like my second father. So so I had wonderful training as I came up the ranks. So then after high school, I went to Mohawk Valley Community College, played 2 years, Was drafted in the 34th round. I was the 933rd player selected in the draft. I mean, that seems like, oh,
Yeah.
But that's a really small crop. I'm really in an elite group.
No doubt about it.
Of people to have had the opportunity to
be drafted,
and then to have the battle of church and state at my house with my mother and my father, right?
Yeah.
Where my mom's like, Kevin, you go to college. My dad's over there like, son, all the years, all the time, effort, and energy I've put into being out on ball fields and 95-degree days and humidity, and right after I got out of work with, just and taking you out to the ball field, I think you should go play baseball. But at the end of the day, men like to eat. So I chose to go with my mother because that's where my bread was buttered.
She's cooking the food.
So I went to college.
So you ignored the draft. You went to college.
Correct.
Now your baseball career is basically over at this point.
Right.
Until you came home.
Until I came home. I graduated from Ohio Dominican University, which is a small Catholic college in Columbus, Ohio, and with no opportunity to play professional baseball after that. So I moved home. I started working in some concrete work, very difficult, hard labor.
Fun,
Oh, it was awesome. Long days, 12-hour days. And
you really got to appreciate those guys who do that work.
Yes,
that's hard work.
I absolutely do.
Yeah.
And so the Utica Blue Sox were here, and they were at that time the Marlins, rookie ball team. Single A, short season. So I was home one day, and my dad just looked at me and said, why don't you go down to the Blue Sox and just, ask, meet with someone, put a shirt and tie on, and ask if you can have an opportunity to play. So I looked at my father at that point, and I says, Dad, I'm not begging anybody to play baseball. I know I can play baseball.
And this is key. This is a very key part of your story.
This is a very key moment because the right hand of his comes up, and he swats me in the head, and he says, boy, are you kidding me? This is the way life works. If you want something, and if you want it bad enough, you have to ask for it. And when you ask for it, you have to be prepared to do the job. So I go down because that swat on the head hurt.
Yeah.
I go down, and I met with, ironically, John Bowles at that time was the minor league director for the Florida Marlins, now the Miami Marlins. So I met with him, and I sat down, and I just sold myself. I said, I was drafted by your organization before. I'm home. I didn't get the opportunity to get drafted or signed as a free agent, and I would love the opportunity. So if there's anything that you could do, whatever I would have to do for you, that would be great. So then what happens is he says, well, here's what you can do. You can show up here. You can work for nothing. You can do all the work, all the early work, all the weight training, all of the stuff that's involved. And the fun part is supposed to be the game.
Right.
But what I would like to express is the fun part really for me was the work. The fun part was the work.
Yeah.
Because I would not have been sitting in that chair looking at that gentleman in his eyes and asking him for the opportunity if I wasn't prepared to put in the time, effort, and energy and the work that I needed to be in that seat.
And you got to play.
I did.
Yeah.
I actually, it was ironic. I don't know as if I told you this, but the day that I signed my actual contract, it was my birthday.
Wow.
It was August 9th. 1997, right around that time, right around my birthday.
Yeah.
And what a wonderful birthday present for a local boy.
Yeah, that's incredible.
That got to run out on that field as an American Legion player and a high school player, but to be able to play there and get a paycheck to play in front of our hometown fans was pretty exciting.
You're officially a professional baseball player.
Yes. Yes.
Pretty amazing.
Yes.
And then you went on to wrap it up. I mean, you went on and you continued to play, but then you went on to coach.
I did. I went on to coach. I had a real brief stint with the Pittsburgh Pirates. I was living in Pennsylvania, in Cranberry Township, Pennsylvania. I met a guy that was the minor league director for the Pittsburgh Pirates. His name is Brian Graham. He's with the Baltimore Orioles now. But BG, he said to me, do you want to? I'd love to have you down in spring training to see if coaching is something you would like to do. And I said, well, I'm honored. That's very, very nice of you. And I had no family at that time, and so we went on. No children at that time. So we went on, and I went down to spring training in Bradenton. Had an awesome time. Got to work with guys like Andrew McCutcheon and Nate McLouth and. Ryan Vogelsong and just all these Pirates that are coming up now, had the opportunity to be around them, and I loved it.
Yep.
Loved it. So then what he did Brian Graham became my endorser after I stayed there a few weeks, a month, and I went home. And the following year, I had an opportunity to go out and coach with in the minor leagues with the Chicago Cubs organization, which I did for 3 years. Had a chance to sit in the dugout. Ryan Sandberg was my manager, our manager, and I was his hitting coach, in the minor leagues when he was coming up, and got to meet Ernie Banks. Ernie Banks said to me, Mr. Green, let me ask you a question. What's the most, God rest his soul. Let me ask you a question. What's the most important thing you can teach your hitters? It's a broad question, and I have a million mechanical things in my mind and pitch selection and this and that. So I said to him, well, Mr. Banks, I said, I think the most important thing to teach a hitter is confidence. So he looks at me and he says, and that's all he said, and he walks away from me.
Yeah.
Now here I am. I just started this job. I thought my pink slip's in my locker.
Yeah.
I upset Mr. Cub. Hey, let's play two,
you
guys.
Just
right?
blew it.
I just blew it.
Yeah.
But I saw him the next day and he said, you know what? That's one of the best answers that I've ever received to that question.
Wow.
But he says to me, but how do you do that? I said, I don't know.
Hey, honesty is always the way to go.
That's the policy.
All right.
So,
well, listen, this is your stories are great, and the kids in New Hartford. I hope they understand what they have in
Thank you.
And the Youth Bureau as well. I mean, you're doing great things over there.
And I've got to I want to thank County Executive Pacenti for my opportunity.
Yeah.
Without my opportunity at the county, I would have never have had this opportunity. So
well, now you're playing for Pacenti.
Correct.
So,
Absolutely. That's
there
my
you
man.
go.
That's
All
my
right.
guy, and it was a great State of the County address.
Kevin Green.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. Good stuff. Make sure you come back, okay?
Thank you. I would love it.
Quick break. 8:28. County Executive Pacenti is coming up next on WIBX.